Hi, welcome to the very first edition of the revived Unscripted Conversations. I'm Uma. I'm joining you all from Cologne in Germany. And I'm very happy and very delighted to be speaking to Dhimant Parekh, the founder of the Better India. So, when did the Better India go from being India's largest online media platform that brings positive stories to Asia's largest?
I think somewhere in about 2016, 2017, around that phase, I think there was this tipping point where suddenly we saw that the word of mouth kicked in. A lot of our stories were being shared on social media. And more importantly, massive impact and change on the ground was happening because of our stories. So people were, getting into the loop. So they were not just consuming these stories, but they were then reaching out to the people we had written about and donating money, donating their time, or replicating those ideas in their neighborhoods. And all of this became again content on the platform because we would write about the impact and slowly I think it became a movement beyond what Anuradha and I had kind of envisaged of just putting content up there.
And in 2008, you and Anuradha started this as a blog, right?
Yeah. Um, you know, the it we had both our careers. We were just fresh out of business school, and we had our jobs, and we would wake up in the morning, have a cup of tea, and read the newspapers, and we just somehow felt that there wasn't enough of a spotlight being given to people who were actually making a difference. I think you can get to knowing what's working for you only by trying out a lot of things, right? And then if the moment it no longer feels like work, I think that is when things really start shaping up.
What can we do to take such news and like actually reach it to people who need it? Is it just the social media reshare? Or are there partnerships that you could have with local news agencies in, say, for example, Germany, to say, hey, these for every 100 good stories we publish, could you pick 10 and post it to your local citizens?
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. One is, of course, social media. I think social media has removed all barriers, and today we're able to reach millions of people with just clicking a button and pasting a link. So that has definitely helped. In fact, almost 30% of our readership is coming in from outside India. The real change will happen when we have people who read us in these countries actually making the effort to talk about this amongst their communities and their neighborhoods, right? That's one sort of a word of mouth play, which will have to happen at a larger scale. And the third thing, which is what kind of ties down to what I was talking about, going this at an international level, is really figuring out partners in each of these countries.
And hopefully, maybe this video will do some part of it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for that.
Yes. Do you remember any story, Dhimant, that was so fabulous, had such a huge impact on either a community or was a game changer for a certain village? Do you remember anything? I'm sure it can't be one. Maybe there are many, but top of the mind recall.
There are many. And for me, a personal favorite was a story we did in 2016. This is a time when there was a lot of stress in the agriculture sector in a certain region of India, the northern Maharashtra, the Vidarbha region actually. And a lot of farmer suicides happening because they've taken a lot of loans and debt, and crops are failing, and abject poverty and stuff. And one of my colleagues, she stumbled upon this WhatsApp group, which a bunch of just 4 or 5 farmers were using to counsel each other and share information, right? And it's basically helping them understand where they could buy cheaper grains from or seeds from, and where they could, what the weather would be like, and so on, right? And we thought that's very fascinating. So we wrote that story. We said, hey, this is a very interesting use of technology that farmers are doing in this region, and this is what they're doing. And we kind of published some screenshots of the kind of information that they were sharing. And post that story went really viral, and on social media and all of that. But what happened was that the local administration head of that district got hold of the story and he found it really amazing. And so he translated it into local language in Marathi. And then he got almost about 1,200 farmers, um, in that district. We brought them all together, and he showed them the story. He narrated the story, saying how you guys can kind of, be there for each other and share stuff. And suddenly that group of five became a group of 100, 200. Then they had many multiple groups, and I think they eventually went to like 10 odd groups, and they had like thousands of farmers now actually, talking to each other and counseling each other. And I think to me that was just fascinating to see that we published a story online in English, and the impact was in a remote corner of rural India.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that was just mind blowing, and I still remember that story.
Yeah. Yes, and I mean, I remember so many more. I mean, also just river revival and things like that. The Western world is still looking for ideas, and India has it. And there are so many rivers that have been revived, but the people here don't get to read or see such news. It's mostly always relegated to some corner of India. And going back to the topic of purpose, Dhimant. So over the years, over the decade, it's more than a decade now, how has that sense of fulfillment also evolved, or is it the same? I mean, where do you see yourself going, or what do you want to do more?
I think one thing, when we started, right, we were more like, hey, we need to do this, we need to talk about this, people need to know about this. And then it kind of shifted into, wow, because of these stories, there's actually change happening on the ground. So we were like, wow, we need to kind of then share more information. We need to make it easier for people to connect with each other. So that sense kind of evolved. And now when we look at it, we're like, wow, I mean, there is so much that can be done, but there is so much more to be done. We just have scratched the surface by building this in English. Now let's get into, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, Gujarati, Bengali, and you can think about, so why are they being deprived of knowing all these stories? It's because they don't speak the language, right? For us, one of the things, for instance, is sustainability, right? A country like India, needs to get to sustainability very, very quickly, because we are not equipped to handle the scale and the lifestyle of the West in terms of, having so much of wastage being generated, or garbage management and all of that. It's just a crazy scale, right? So we then decided, okay, we will kind of, launch this separate thing where we start giving sustainable options for consumers, so who want to move towards a more conscious consumption lifestyle, right? Which is where then we launched the Better Home, which is our range of non-toxic, biodegradable home cleaners, right? And we want to now scale that up, because now every household who is kind of using our products is actually preventing contamination of millions of liters of water.
I have one last question, which is also relevant to me for the work that I do. Is how did the section brands and purpose come about? Is it your idea? Were there brands already doing this that you brought them to the forefront?
Yeah, so this came out from a very sort of, I would say, a desperate need to get revenues coming in order to sustain the Better India, right? And so we bootstrapped it, and we funded it out of our own savings for a couple of years until we hit a wall. And then we were like, how do you monetize this? Because we have billions of people coming in. And what we were clear is that we did not want to get into a mode of just doing PR for companies. That kind of defeats the purpose of what the Better India kind of standing for. So we decided that we will actually come up with this whole idea where we pick a topic that we want to go deep into, which is in the area of what the Better India kind of wants to talk about. And could we find a brand who could come in and help us go deeper into that by their resources and funds and stuff like that? And that is why we kind of created this whole section called Brands in Action. So we worked with a telecom company, for instance, and created a series around talking about how people across India are using the mobile phone for social change. right? And we unearthed those stories. We worked with a mutual fund house and partnered with, who partnered with us to identify stories of women who are driving financial inclusion in remote corners of the country. We worked with an FMCG company to identify unknown innovations happening in the country. And what this does is that, of course, it started getting us a revenue stream, but it also provides our readers with even more well-produced content, because it has more resources backing it. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Like, how do we all come together and bring these stories out?
Right.
That's how the brand started working with us.
That's what I'm doing at work, Dhimant, is to encourage brands to think about social impact, to not just the financial performance is not going to come with staged stories and fancy creative ideas. It's going to come by either doing something for the people or the planet, or leaving a certain community better than before. These things are so important, especially the pandemic has put that in perspective. So on that time, and I want to say thank you so much for your time. And,
thank you.
And for all of you who are watching this, I'd love for you to subscribe to the Better India. I'd love for you to share their stories with the larger world. And wherever you can, collaborate with Dhimant and Anuradha and cheer them on for the great work that they're doing.
Thank you so much, Uma. Thanks for having me on this.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dhimant. Hope to see you sometime. Bye-bye.
Same here. Bye.
Bye.